I'll be honest, if the answer was just that he moved for easier money, I would take that. I would, you know what? I completely respect that, man. You got to take care of your family. His opponent in the Northeast, talk about a family man now. He is Liquid's TLO.
You know what my favorite parts about TLO is right now? Is that whenever I check out his or his, like his Instagram, he's always posting all of these really, really wonderful, delicious looking foods. Because he's actually gone vegan as well. So he's like posting like vegan cake and all this other stuff. And I am also one. And he's been saying like, oh yeah, I'm like developing some sort of allergy or something to milk. And I'm like, wow, you eat all the same food I do now. But
dude, I have heard
better food than I do.
About that happening to people.
Yeah.
Did you know that you can get like that milk allergy thing as you get older? That's terrifying.
Yeah. Dude, okay.
I might be short, but at least my generic genes have me safe from allergy stuff.
Ooh, yeah. This is not allergy. It's actually a little bit of a subtle difference. It's not allergy, but lactose intolerance. Did you know because of lactose intolerance, if you add up the lactose intolerant people and also the people who are allergic to milk, a majority of the world cannot eat milk without some repercussions.
That is terrifying. I am very glad for my very boring, basic Eastern European genetics that allow me to consume copious amounts of dairy products with no repercussions.
Dude, it sucks, man. The Indian food is literally just like a lot of milk, and I'm allergic to milk. Growing up, man,
sorry for your dragon.
It was
I'm so
tough.
sorry.
Oh,
maybe one day.
Okay.
Maybe one day we'll figure it out.
TLO actually gives me a lot of like whenever we go to like Cheesadelphia and stuff, we bond over finding the same food and everything. It's been good. And actually, TLO has been. I feel like he's really started integrating himself more and more into the North American scene. It's been a pleasure to have him here.
Yeah, TLO's awesome. He's awesome. He's a fantastic addition to the American StarCraft scene for sure. And I love being able to watch, you know, just kind of the way that he slowly adjusts. You know, like a TLO of old, right? We talked about. I think you already brought it up, the whole thing about the creativity, but he's like, actually, American players are just insane. It's like, NA ladder's just, I can't be creative because anytime I try to do a build that has like a weird timing at 3 or 4 minutes, the other guy's already done some other weirder all in a minute earlier.
Yeah, like the way I put it is that TLO is the guy who writes new pages in the book, like the playbook for everyone. And you're like, oh my God, it's so creative. He's generating new plays. North America doesn't even have a book, right? The book was burnt. Everyone has just kind of got some special plans that they're kind of doing and throwing out there. No one knows exactly how it all works, but it's beautiful when we get to see it in action.
Yeah. So since it's a ZVZ, I'm going to refrain from trying to dive too deep into the analysis here because no one's going to listen to it anyway. So we have the Bailey Nest finishing up at the front. These queens getting very far forward for Namshar to push the Overlord back. And get that kill. I do feel like there's always a bit of risk when you do this, though, because, you know, naturally, if your opponent was holding a ton of lings and trying to backstab you, this would be the moment to jump on those queens. I would be far too nervous to go that far out myself.
Yeah, it definitely gets dangerous sometimes, but I think in this particular situation, we don't actually see too many lings out for TLO. I have to say, he's been sending in a lot of lings for scouting information. He has been extremely diligent about it. He's already losing 5 lings and one of the forward overlords. That's actually a lot of attempts to just get information on Namshar. I wonder what exactly is making TLO feel like so uncomfortable that he's maybe like afraid about a 2-base Muta play or Fire, but clearly there's a 3rd base now. So
yeah, and I think one thing that we can definitely say as two players that had to basically play in Europe for a long time. Leading up to this, there's always like, you know, big ZVZ region, right? You have an absolutely, you have a huge amount of ZVZ practice because that's where all the best Zerg players are, especially outside Korea. Zergs dominate that region for a really long time. And, you know, you have players that inspired and kind of caused that, right? Guys like Stefano that were so good. And everyone's like, well, I want to be like Stefano. So let's play Zerg and build roaches. But you have to be able to play every which way, whether it is that Muta or Roach style. And a lot of people, I mean, there's plenty of arguments to be made about which are better, but in a weird way, it mostly just comes down to how you feel that particular map.
Yeah. I was going to say, TLO managed to, I believe, get a bailing run by in, killing off 6 workers. And Namshar fired up 16 drones in production. This guy is actually just going crazy on drones. Look at that, 5.5 minutes, and he's gonna have close to 70 drones already. This is getting almost a little bit scarily high in worker counts right now, but I mean, TLO has only just now started making some of these roaches. The Nidus Worm is the one way that maybe I could see something happening here, but the odd thing about this, Nate, is that +1 weapons is gonna finish up here for Namshar, and I don't think it's gonna be finished up over here for TLO by the time Nidus Worm finishes.
Yeah, but oh, it's so close. I don't know, man. It's a 15-second difference, which in that specific short window, maybe, but I don't think that that's going to end up having too much of an impact. Really just boils down to got to be aware of when and where that worm drops. Like, he can see it. He can see the Nidus of TLO pretty early, so denying it should be pretty simple at that point. And we have to remember the cooldown, right? You have to wait a couple seconds now before you try to spawn another worm. The map vision and awareness from Namshar is really on point this game, I feel.
Yeah, also remember that one of the downsides is that if you don't actually get up the Nidus Worm, you have units that are basically just at home. They're in the Nidus Worm, they're waiting for a Nidus Worm to pop up, and until you get that Nidus Worm up, you actually can't just fight in the middle of the map with the rest of your units, because that's only a portion of your army. So we are going to end up seeing TLO just kind of dart around. It looks like the Nidus Worm is now empty. He emptied it out from any other units, and both these players going into the Spire.
Yeah, so that can always get very, very weird. We kind of had this discussion earlier in our first ZVZ series, like, I don't know, 12 hours ago, where that like fast carapace kind of came into play and the upgrades and all that jazz, but also in other games, right? Just being able to get there while a big attack comes and hits. And since both players still do have a pretty reasonably large number of Roaches and Ravagers, and they're actually continuing to invest in upgrades and production towards them, it may not necessarily be meant as like a gotcha, but more of like a, oh, we're going to fight, and then I'm going to remax or try to, not necessarily remax. Obviously, that would cost a stupid amount of money for mutas, but you kind of get the idea to go into it after another big attack. But he does find a place to put that Nidus Worm, Fear Dragon.
Yeah, very interesting place now. Unfortunately, I don't think the TLO is going to be using it anytime soon. But what might be really interesting is that if somehow TLO gets up enough of an army, he might be able to catch this army on retreat with that Nidus Worm. But Namshar is not looking to retreat right now. He's got a very large amount of army supply. He's trying to find TLO at a weird angle, but I think TLO actually has the better end of this fight. Although the Corrosive Bios, oh my God, blanketing a lot of TLO's army right there.
Now, if he thinks that Namshar is going to go home, this is definitely the moment to start churning those Roaches through the Nidus, and here they are. Of course, you do want to make sure you don't overinvest into this. The splintered off forces will fall to the army one by one, and then you have to worry about a counterattack. But that is exactly the moment when maybe you want to try and make that transition into Roaches, or excuse me, the Mutas, but he cuts off!
Body block.
So many Roaches left to die outside that Nidus Worm, looking at their path to salvation, but not able to take it.
Oh, Nate, I'm actually getting really worried right now for TLO. Namshar has a pretty substantial roach count lead. He's got his mutas out earlier than TLO as well, and actually going to be in slightly higher number with 6 to 5. Not a massive difference, but I mean, he's going to start shutting down the Overlords. That means Nidus Worms are going to be harder to get up. Namshar playing really, really well right now.
Yeah, it's been really good map awareness from him to really limit the ability for TLO to try and pull off anything that could go under the radar. And TLO getting his mutas out is definitely nice. Both players are going to start to careen in that direction. Denying this gold gas base is super important, though. The fact that Namshar has that is kind of insane. The amount of extra mutalisks that you can produce off of the income from that base alone is wild, especially at very little drone investment, which, as we all know, is a pretty crucial component of ZVZ, managing the larva, managing the balance of how many units versus workers you're getting. When you have an extractor that only needs half as many to be fully efficient as a whole base, that's pretty nice for a Zerg.
Ooh. Corrosive Bios actually landing on a lot of TLO's army again. It really feels like this is already a difficult numbers game right now for TLO. He's been down in Roaches. He's been down in a lot of the mutas, and now it feels like he's just going to be falling down further behind in drones. This is the do or die moment here, and it looks like the answer, honestly, Nate, is going to be die. GG. Game number 1 goes Namshar's way.
Yeah, just, a couple big things to point out there. Obviously, TLO was missing a significant chunk of his army for that ground defense due to the Roaches that could not make it back to the Nidus worm. And of course, you're investing resources into the Nidus network. He tried to build, I think, at least 3 or 4 different Nidus worms during the course of that game.
Yeah.
And only one of them was actually really able to hit, and it couldn't really do much after it did, regardless of that, which a bit disappointing to not be able to see that come to fruition. But also just big kudos to Namshar. He was just on top of it, you know? Like, he had that very, very cool, calm, and collected vibe going the whole game, it felt like.
Yeah, to me, like, there were 2 really big things that I feel like Namshar just got the way better end of versus TLO. The first thing was, it felt like Namshar, it doesn't seem like a massive deal, but he was up about 7-8 drones for a majority of the early part of the game, just because Namshar went ham on drones. He went super greedy on drones, and TLO was playing kind of greedy, but like not nearly as greedy as Namshar. And the second thing was corrosive biles, Nate. Oh my god, I feel like TLO was just constantly eating a lot of those corrosive biles for the fight. He kept chasing the roaches after the corrosive biles would be thrown down, and then TLO's roaches would move into the corrosive biles. I'm not sure if he was distracted or if it was just, you know, uncharacteristic mistakes, but I feel like if that's the way that the roach wars go, that can change games. And I feel like that was already a situation where it wasn't even. If that happens in a situation where it's even, I feel like you can lose games because of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's really hard because like ZVZ always comes down to these intangibles that aren't as obvious to us, even when we have full vision of everything, like whether or not a unit gets canceled and we don't see that larva ends up being wasted early, whether or not that little bit of creep spread that a player did or didn't get allowed or didn't allow a queen to come over and reinforce a third base that was almost done. And these players, they're not gonna slip up on those mistakes. And I just going into game number 2, it does give me a little bit of worry because well, let's just say that this guy in the top right has been doing a pretty good job of just being aware, just really good awareness in the Northeast. The Red Zerg, he is Namshar.
And down in the bottom left-hand side of the map, we have the blue Zerg player from Team Liquid. He is TLO. You know, I just realized we had Everdream and we didn't actually get to see the good old Topol drone pull.
Did you find that surprising, Fear Dragon?
I did find it surprising, Nate, and I'm gonna add this to my little chalkboard of matches that didn't involve the 12-full drone pull in a ZVZ on Evergreen.
Also add it to your chalkboard of times Nathan was right, because I told you it wasn't gonna happen.
I don't even keep track of that. I only keep track of things that I can reasonably keep like in a reasonable amount of space and size. So
oh, I see.
You're right,
I haven't been right enough times to warrant that much space. I get it. That's fair.
Exactly. See, that's why I also say I don't keep track of the number of 12-pull drone pulls I get or see. I keep track of the number I don't see.
Oh, that's yeah. You do that for non-ZVZ matchups.
Even with that, it's still a minority. No.
Nice.
Wouldn't that be great though?
Well, these both players are literally doing the exact same thing right now, Fear Dragon. So got not too much to add to this. Is there anything on Eternal Empire that you like to see? I mean, the meme here is our defensive map, blah, blah, blah. It's long. But I don't know if this map has a special relationship in ZVZ outside of eventually that gold gas being pretty useful, especially with the mutas, right? Like Namshar having that, he was always going to have more mutas if he has that base and TLO doesn't.
Yeah, I was gonna say the two things that I feel like I've seen a little bit more on here, and I don't think it's a super strong tie together. I think you're right on that. But the two things I typically see more of are one, muta play lately, and then two, I actually feel like there's been some pretty cool games with a lot of good Ling Baneling micro on this map, just because the natural expansion outside of the natural, the main base, there's a lot of space to work with. And I feel like when you're doing Ling micro versus Banelings, the more space you have, the more you feel like, you know what, I can out micro my opponent here. I think I can get the better end of this, but yeah, it's a little harder to do in confined spaces.
Yeah. All right. We have the third bases going up. Waiting to see, of course, whether or not we're going to have too much variation between what these players were doing. I did find one interesting comment. We have a good amount of lings actually being put out. Maybe Namshar is going to try and go for a deny on that third, but somebody in the live report there was saying that they should just have a Canadian off to see who's more Canadian now and see if they can just take shots of maple syrup every game. Who can take the most?
So perfect, because then they would have the next Canadian off versus Scarlet in the following series. So it'd be like, all right, we have the people who are now living in Canada.
I was gonna say, it's hard to beat the Canadian birth certificate, though, right?
Yeah, but here's the thing: she's not in Canada anymore. So it's like, oh, there's still a chance, maybe.
Oh no, wherever you're from goes with you wherever you go. That's kind of the way I see it. You always take a little bit of it with you.
Oh, nice little trades over here for Namshar. He's actually, I think, started off with the better end of things, but as more lings came forward, TLO is able to push that back. Takes a little bit of damage on the hatchery, but nothing too major over there. And we got layers starting up at the exact same time for both these players, Nate. But Namshar does have a little drone lead now.
Yeah, they're both kind of moving on the same frequency, you could say, as far as these builds and these setups go. Counter from TLO, trying to grab a queen, maybe a couple of drones would be pretty. There's really not a lot of Zerglings at this expansion to defend against it. And we actually have a Baneling coming in. Oh, that could have been a massive hit. But guess what? It doesn't need to be a massive hit. They just need to walk in circles and keep lings away while the Zerglings kill the drones. This is actually really nice for TLO. He's actually evened out the worker count now.
Oh, the queen has actually body blocked the drones into the Baneling connection. Oh, that's so unfortunate. If they had been mineral walking, that would have been a perfect setup. I think Namshar just ever so slightly missed out on that. Regardless, though, it's going to be a cleanup. It's still pretty close worker counts. Namshar is going to have 3 more drones to make up for the 3 drones he's behind in production. We get ready to move into roach production over here, at least for TLO, but the Spire starts up pretty quickly thereafter. We'll see if Namshar follows suit, as he's still just focusing on some of this Baneling micro.
Yeah, and this is like that stressful mid-game period for ZVZ, right? You're trying to keep stuff like those 2 Banelings that are about to waddle into the third, trying to get a big hit. And TLO is getting a Spire. So I think what his thought process might be that he has kind of taken this aggressive posture and that Namshar may be a little bit on the defensive now, and that could give him the time he needs to get those mutas up without having to, build like 7 spine crawlers as we saw in Vanya versus Lambo earlier today.
Yeah. A little unfortunate with the Baneling run by because there just aren't many drones at the third base just yet. So TLO
can't kill my workers if I don't saturate my mineral lines, Ravi.
I mean, that's my logic in 90% of my games.
Boom, boom.
Yeah. Well, Spire's getting closer finishing up, and we do have, in terms of gas count for TLO, roughly enough for 5 mutas. Doesn't actually have the minerals right now. Just spent a lot of it on roaches, so we might not even see mutas made for first minute or 2 of that Spire coming on out.
Yeah, the Hydralisk Den is always scary. I feel like I hardly ever see Hydralisks end up being like the key to dealing with mutas. Of course, on their own, they're not going to be bad to throw into that army. But it really comes down to, I guess, like how many mutas he's going to have, how he's going to respond to this when he sees them for the first time on the field. These Zerglings do have a pretty decent surround on the hatch, but they're not able to kill it. The Ravager Biles are going to force the cancel, though. That's not a bad follow-up. This is one of those odd things that we talk about, but we don't see too often. But when you move out and you don't got roach speed, but your opponent does, it gets funky for your dragon. He doesn't care about the mutas. He's like, I'm going to kill the Ravagers. Those are expensive.
Yeah, I mean, these are great pickoffs over here for Namshar. And even though the mutas would gradually kill some of these roaches, Namshar is absolutely getting better trades here in terms of just units lost. So +1 flyer attack is getting closer to finishing, and TLO is just going to double down on the mutas, making even more right now, going up to a total of 15 or so. So that is the big game plan here for TLO. And I have to say, he plays some really, really top-notch muta micro versus Silky. So I believe in his ability to make this work.
Yeah, well, the nice thing about actually surviving to the point where you have a decent number of Mutalisks on the map is that it becomes very, very simple for dealing with like normal levels of harassment. Mutas are going to be good at bouncing between your bases for the defense. The key things to keep in mind for Namshar is going to be using and leveraging things like those spores, that creep spray, to get the spores out to the bases as early as you can. But also, I also really like that he's going to go for tunneling claws and burrow, because you need to be able to get out on the field without the Mutalisks knowing. Because the nice thing for the blue Zerg player, TLO, he can just put overlords around the map now, right? Like, it's not going to be too hard for him to just try and spot those forces since he has complete air control in this game. These Mutas diving on the queens at the rich gas base. A bold move to make. He's hoping that there won't be a transfuse so he can kill the spore, and I actually do like that. The Hydras are not really out yet, but this is the problem, right? He has to bring all the Mutas back to deal with the roaches. He has the burrow, so is there an overseer? No. Well, he can split them around, and this gives time now to re-secure that gold gas base, because if he hadn't just backstabbed with all these roaches, he would have been able to probably deny this expansion. He might have had enough time to kill it since there were no queens or spores there.
Yeah, I mean, the queen count for Namshar has been pretty low for a lot of this kind of game so far. Even just as the Mutas are getting to like a 10 to 15 count, there are only 3 queens out on the map. Now, Namshar has finally been pumping out some of those Hydras. He's getting up to roughly a 10 count and actually adding on a few more. But these Mutas are killing off these roaches. They're actually doing a great job of denying the roaches from getting a whole lot of damage on. Another queen is going to end up falling over here. I think maybe, what, 4 or 5 drones end up going down over here. That's honestly a pretty solid defense for TLO.
Yeah, at the same time, though, TLO's kind of take advantage of the fact that he had such an air lead. And while he is going to continue to build Mutalisks, the potential for what they can do has significantly diminished compared to earlier. Since the other problem with this is he's got to deal with the roaches, and these Mutas, like, they don't kill roaches that fast in small numbers, so you kind of have to have a lot of them here. He's constantly being forced to run the overseer around. But look at what's happened on the other side of the map. We've got like 10 spores. He's built like 10 spore crawlers. A couple of them are still finishing. He's got lurkers at all of his bases. He's got a good number of Hydras, and he's going into Hive. And I mean, honestly, I expect to see him probably try to move into Vipers as a counter to this, as that's, Parasitic Bomb is going to be phenomenal versus the Mutas. And maybe even try to synergize that with some Infestor play. But of course, you don't want to be too greedy since this is a pretty tremendous number of Mutalisks.
Yeah, Nate, that's what I'm a little bit afraid of right now, is that 9 Hydras, 5 Queens, and I don't even care, 20 Spore Crawlers. I'm actually a little bit afraid that the Mutas will still just find a lot of damage over here until Parasitic Bomb or Fungal Growth gets involved. This is the scariest thing. And oh no, the Mutas found the Overlords also.
Yeah, that's pretty terrifying. I mean, you're going to need another Spore or two. He does start them up. TLO's Mutalisk count is pretty insane. He has to make the big play right here, right now with these forces. If he loses these Mutas, if he can't slow down this ever-growing tech and army supply game that Namshar was headed for, then it's going to be really hard. But I have to say, he does clean up the majority of them. 13 more Hydras are coming out. A lot of these Mutalisks are weak, but as you said, he can supply block him back to the Shadow Realm here with all of the Overlords.
That's actually going to be so close to the most painful supply block possible. There's still 27 Mutas on the map right now, Nate. There are 15 Hydras, but the Hydras have to be in the right position. And actually, if TLO is absolute next level with his micro right here, I was going to say he can control 2 blocks of Mutas.
Flew through everything right there. That's a bit unfortunate.
He loses the Overseers too. Okay, he still has 1 Overseer still left alive. I was going to say, that's the danger, is that he has to control 2 flocks of Mutas because they were separated. He does rejoin them now, but man, those were some big losses.
Yeah, and now we have the Vipers coming out. And as strong as you think those Mutalisks are, if he tries to ever force a fight, the Vipers will always be able to send him back. You're not going to fight with all of your Mutalisks in a Parasitic Bomb cloud. Simply put, it's never going to work. It's not going to be a strong thing to do. Of course, you can try to split off the Muta, but the Mutas are strongest when they're clumped, aren't they? So it turns into a game of cat and mouse between the Mutalisks and those things. The Banelings are going to try and get through here. That's what the Lurkers are for. They're not all stacked, though.
Yeah, kills off the base. Is going to be able to shut down another base. I mean, the other big thing that you can do with the Mutas is just out-macro your opponent by a large margin. You keep shutting down the
He's taking every base. He's taken every base on his aftermath. And he's starting to take Namshar. He actually has Namshar's base on the east side, too.
Yeah, I like it. I think this is actually a really, really smart move. And behind this, Nate, he's getting up his own hive and getting up a lurker den. Those Vipers have not really shown their face. Now, As soon as they get one parasitic bomb out, oh my god, there it is. Parasitic bomb pulled out on the Mutas. TLO doing an okay job splitting up versus, I mean, a very difficult parasitic bomb to identify. But man, Nate, just one more parasitic bomb is going to put all of these Mutas in the red.
Yeah, this is the type of thing where this can work very well if the Mutalisks are able to cause too much chaos. Though what's happening now is there's a ton of spine crawlers getting added. A lurker den is getting added. TLO, he's still adding Mutalisks to this, which I find crazy. But as long as he can keep Namshar pinned in his base, he's literally taken almost the whole entire map. He's gotten all the bases on his side that he could grab at ease. Doesn't want to go across the gap from his own main, but that is not going to be a factor. You don't even have enough. You don't have enough supply in the game to saturate all these bases and have an army.
Yeah. I'm also so glad that TLO has been investing into his missile attack upgrades as well. So he's been able to play a lot of catch up there. +2 missile attack, getting closer to finishing while the Mutas continue to harass. They're just going to right click down another one of these hatcheries. Remember, oh, parasitic bomb does come out. TLO not splitting. Okay, there it is. Good identification there. I was going to say, if he shuts down another one of these bases, then Namshar will be back down to just 3 bases, and it's, oh god, this base does not survive.
Yeah, he's also been harassing on the left side too during this on that base with the gold gas again. He's thrown some of his roaches over there. The lurkers, of course, can deal with it, but the big problem is as long as there's this many Mutas on the map, it's never going to be a simple answer for him to stop this. There's another parasitic bomb on the Mutas. A couple of them are going to get blown up.
Well, they get popped, but I mean, a decent number of them still survive, and now they can just kind of wait it out for a little bit. There's no Vipers out right now. Okay, there's one Viper out right now. I don't think it has the energy to actually throw out a parasitic bomb, but finally see a little counterattack from the other side of the map. It's full Hydra.
Here's a big problem though, Fear Dragon, and I don't think Namshar is going to win this game. I don't believe that that's going to happen, but one big thing. Oh, okay, no. Oh! Never mind. No, I'm just gonna shut up.
No, go on, Nate. Go on, Nate.
Right there, right? I don't know. I don't know what to say to that. He just walked like 8 lurkers into lurkers, and I'm okay. Well, what I wanted to say was the Vipers can really unbalance a lurker versus lurker fight, just abducting them out of the ground. But also Blinding Cloud works well against them too, because he's going to fight back with his own lurkers. So ideally, when the Mutas are off the field, the Vipers play the zoning game for his lurkers to get work done. But now comes the biggest problem of all, which is that during this, TLO took every single base. So Namshar basically has to have the most cost-effective counter push ever to be able to win this game, because if he tries to take every base right now on his side of the map, which he can't afford to do, he will have done it later than TLO. So he's just never going to catch up, right? Without TLO basically walking 10 lurkers unburrowed into other lurkers, which unfortunately is what Namshar already did. So this game just got really ugly. Blinding Clouds with the Hydras. It's not a completely set in stone thing. If he can max out and get the army he wants, he's just gonna need to win 2, maybe probably 3 full fights decisively. Because it's not like TLO's rich either. He can only mine so much from those bases. This isn't Brood War.
I do think that one thing TLO has done, he did have a bit of a mineral bank while he was trying to catch up a bit in gas and transfer his workers over to the newer bases. TLO threw down a lot of static defense at those excess bases, Nate. And you know what? Namshar is probably thinking right now, I need to find a way to drag TLO down a little bit. I need to start thinking about roach run-bys with tunneling claws and doing things like that. You know what's not going to work anymore when there are 3 spine crawlers and a spore crawler at every base? Roach run-bys.
That's a fair point to make. I'll also add in that Namshar is ahead on 2 upgrades for the Hydras. He's got +3. He has a Carapace upgrade. Both of those are coming in for TLO now. But really, this is the play. There you go. That's what you want to leverage, that tech advantage. He's going to delete quite a few lurkers off the map. Use those Vipers. But the repositioning of TLO, he's trying to win this off of the back of the stellar economy he's put together, and it has been stellar.
All right, we're going to end up seeing a couple of adupts over here, but I mean, the army for Namshar just seems like a lot of it has disappeared. These lurkers still getting some damage done. Now some Vipers coming in for TLO. They're going to be abducting these lurkers out of the ground, knocking them out, and that means that now TLO is going to be in range of the hatchery. That's going to be a shutdown, and at the same time, the northern base also getting attacked by a couple of lurkers and getting shut down.
Yeah, this is, I mean, TLO just did a really good job with the way he Those Hydras take a beating. He's basically bled out on economy. TLO has a million bases he can go to. GG. This series is tied.
One apiece. Not getting another 3-0 this time, Nate. Super happy to see that. And it does mean TLO is showing some really good signs of life in the later stages of this. But man, Nate, as a Protoss player, I will testify. And I feel like you've also been in this moment too as a meching Terran player. When the meta count gets large enough, it just feels like there's not a lot you can do anymore. Because they just kill things before you can get up to enough numbers to deal with them.
I never feel that way when I play Terran, but I am a Masters 1 Protoss, and I will tell you that mutas are OP versus Toss. That's how I feel. If you don't open Stargate, mutas are OP versus Protoss. That stuff is this is stuff of nightmares, right? Trying to move stuff around, and then your Archons are too fat to go through your natural wall. No, that's just painful. And in this match, that was like, he got to the point where he attacked into 3 spores with Hydras there, right? That's a lot of Mutalisks to have. And the most important thing that TLO did out of that, he didn't need to trade cost effectively anymore past the Mutalisk phase because he had just taken so many bases. Even if he trades cost ineffectively, as long as he doesn't lose all of his bases, he's got like 4 more than his opponent. So he's always got somewhere to send those workers to if they're able to survive. And that's a big part of the problem. And I think when he move commanded all those lurkers into the other lurkers, it's because no Zerg in their right mind thinks that they're being attacked like that. They're on 4 bases. Oh, my opponent? Well, maybe he's got his 4th, right? These mutas came pretty fast. He probably skipped something. No, he's already got that base with lurkers, and you just accidentally suicided half your army because you thought the only thing that this guy was doing was just massing Mutalisks.
I'm definitely with you on that. I feel like the lurkers just completely caught Namshar off guard there, which sealed the deal for sure there. That sealed the deal on TLO taking a massive lead in that game. But, you know, game number 1 still ended up going Namshar's way. So I feel like he's got what it takes in the earlier stages to make some really, really good plays happen. And let's not forget that, yeah, it was a situation where we were talking about Namshar making some really, really juicy plays, getting big snipe offs on TLO's Ravagers and his Roaches. The Roach run-bys doing some really nice damage, shutting down Nidus Worm plays and everything. I feel like Namshar has made a lot of really good plays in the early and mid-game stage. TLO made a big comeback with the mutas. And I'm not sure if that's something you can super rely on being able to get to every single one of these games in ZVZ.
Yeah, I don't feel like Namshar played bad. I think that the Mutalisks just snowballed in a really effective way. Like, just the way that TLO kind of caught him off guard with how much he invested, because you expect the Zerg player to force you to build those spores, to force you to go for those Vipers, but then transition into something else basically by the time you get there, so that you can't really, you know, do anything about it. But that's exactly what happened. He's like, oh yeah, nobody builds more mutas than the normal amount, right? Wrong. That's why you lose this game.
Yeah, that's becoming more and more common also in ZVZ to just see the big muta counts start to come out, not just the like, oh, I built 5 to 10 mutas and then I'm just gonna go back into Roaches. That still happens, but I feel like more often these days I've just been seeing Zerg players going hard on mutas and finding these big opportunities to kind of dive in with massive numbers, catch a Zerg player that's just going for pure Hydras really off guard. It's still tough. You were actually saying this before the Hydras came out, and I agree. Not that I feel like I have a better solution for these Zerg players, but when you get caught and you find that you're just up against mutas and you're like, well, I can't really make mutas myself, you make Hydras and it just feels like you're pinned back the whole game. The entire game you're pinned back, and it just feels like you never get a chance to do anything. It's such an uncomfortable feeling.
Yeah, well, harass focused strategies can be really strong like that. And I guess it's also probably worth adding. Sorry guys, we had to remake the lobby as the race was set incorrectly when we loaded into the game. So it's taking a little bit longer.
What if TLO swapped back to Terran, Nate?
No. But I did really like that Namshar tried to kind of do something similar with the Burrowed Roaches to buy himself that time and create that space. It's just hard because if he had been able to maybe try and do that again during that other phase, but he was just already broke at that point, right? If you could pull those mutas away 1 or 2 more times and you get like 4 Vipers and then you drop, like Parasitic Bomb doesn't stack anymore, but if you drop it on 4 separate mutas, good luck splitting all of them, right?
Yeah.
So that's the type of thing that ends up being really, really strong. The fact that he was able to win that game the way that he did, I find incredibly impressive.
All right, guys. Well, we are going to be starting the next game down here in the bottom right-hand side of the map. Submarine. It is on top of the blue Zerg player from Team Liquid. He is TLO. It's happening.
All right. All right. In the top left, we have the red Zerg player. He is Namshar.
Oh, I love this from Namshar. The pool first. It's not a 12 pool like TLO's doing, but Submarine's such a small map. I think that Namshar is actually trying to hard counter the 12 pool drone pull, but it's hatchery on the lookout. This is not I don't think this is a drone pull then.
No, I honestly, man, I'm sick of that stuff. I already told you it's not going to happen in this series, okay? So I have said it. I have literally never been wrong about anything ever in my whole entire life, Fear Dragon.
You know, I was like 75% ready.
I'm just waiting for him to cancel the hatch and prove me wrong.
I know. Yeah.
I'm just waiting for him to cancel the hatch. That's all I need now.
He was just waiting for Namshar to scout it and then be like, all right, now I know I'm not getting 12 full drone pulled. That would actually be a very TLO move, by the way.
The Overlords are still going to see these lings, by the way, like the way that he covered the left side. Submarine is too small a map to really hide anything unless you turn it into the longest map in the pool and go all the way around the very corners, at which point you may as well have not even tried to do that type of attack because your opponent will have everything that they need at home. But the forcing of a spine crawler, okay, immediately cancels it too. That's interesting.
Yeah, I think he may have believed that this was going to be more aggressive, but yeah, decent number of these drones going to be pulled down. It's very important. You don't actually want to lose almost any of the drones over here. You're just trying to sacrifice some of the lings that you had to make. Queen can take a bit of damage, but you don't want to lose that either. Now, TLO, he's not reinforcing with a bunch more lings or anything, so it's going to be kind of difficult for him to get a lot of damage on. He's going to try and right-click down some of the drones over here. Going after one, he finds one. Hey, that's something. And a scout.
Yeah. That's not bad. I mean, TLO cleans up some of the other lings on the right side too, as these guys slip into that main base. But at the end of it all, I think Namshar is going to come out slightly ahead drone count-wise, which is always going to be nice. It's kind of hard, though, because like ZVZ, you kind of seesaw between inject timings, right, on when those waves of units come. So at the end of the day, it usually ends up balancing itself out unless someone screws up real bad.
Yeah, I like that TLO was able to deny the scout there from the lings of Namshar, and it may not seem like a big deal right now, and Namshar is still just going to go back into droning for now, so it's probably not the end of the world, but it is one of those things where you see something like this and you're like, oh, what? Did you get your gas? Are you actually getting Zergling speed? Are you doing something else? Are you trying to play greedy? Like, what's happening in there? But the Queen's being able to deny that, does shut down some of that information and keeps Namshar kind of on his toes.
Yeah. And things kind of stabilize, go a little bit more back to normal. Nobody's cranking out tons of units, getting ready to kill the other player, at least not yet. And we have the faster third base for Namshar and this Roach Warren coming down a little bit earlier for TLO. So maybe he's going to get +1 and try to do something with roaches. Not 100% sure on that. We will have to wait and see. Namshar does boot up his own Roach Warren as well. Of course, nobody has to be mega committed to that. I guess what we're looking for now would be like that lair timing.
Well, lair timing is going to get scouted thanks to some slightly misplaced queens. Very, very annoying there. But yeah, I guess you'll say like your lair is at the same time as mine, so that's fine.
So with that being said, it's going to end up kind of just being kind of like normal between what they're both going for. I don't know. I'm losing my ability to use words because I'm trying to look for something different between what these two players are going for, and ZVZ is just a little bit too complex for my simple Terran mind.
Yeah, I was gonna say I do think there's one big difference besides just the 10 roaches that are coming on out between this game and some of the other games, and that's just the fact that TLO is of course flooding out a bunch of roaches. This map
Namshar's been droning. Namshar's been droning real hard too. Does he? How comfortable does he feel holding this off? I mean, he was greedy with the third base, I felt a little bit, especially because he knows there's no third for his opponent. But the fact that he droned it up this much, he's asking for a big push And TLO might be able to kill him. I'm not really sure. TLO gets a Spire behind this and he's building drones. So I'm like, I don't know. Maybe he doesn't feel like he could kill him.
Yeah, I mean, this is still just one of those maps where it's like you have 10 seconds less to react just because of how small the map is. And look at this. He's going to be able to kill off a couple of these drones. He has more than enough roaches to handle his opponent's roaches for now. So yes, there are going to be more roaches popping, but a lot of them are going to pop into the roaches of TLO. So they may even get one shot over here. A few more.
Oh, don't send the drone. Sending the drones back to that base makes me really nervous here, Dragon. He's going to be able to get a couple of more kills. And that spine crawler actually having trouble finding a place to root itself at the same time. But oh, I do like that he tries to split off a few roaches here. If he can get another drone or two, that would be ace.
Yeah, I think even just splitting them off, even though it seems like, oh, he's just going to end up losing them for nothing. Well, he gets the rest of the roaches out. It was either that or he's going to bleed off even more roaches on the retreat. So
do we still like
smart move?
Do we prefer Namshar's position here? Because he's had this third up for way longer, right? He's going to have a lot of larva or I guess he still has the ace up his sleeve, right? He still kind of has this, he still has the Mutalisks coming out now, right? That Spire finish during all of this. And there's no lair tech other than roach speed right now for Namshar. So obviously once the Mutas get out in good enough numbers, we kind of go back to the scenario from the last game. Except counterattacking should be a little bit easier, right? Because the map's smaller. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's actually what I was going to lead into, is that I really like this situation for Namshar. He's got +1 weapons finished up earlier. He can go for this counterattack. And let's be real. Yes, the mutas are here. There's only 12 roaches, though. So Namshar, even as he takes damage from the mutas, should kill nearly all of the roaches over here for TLO. TLO is trying to retreat back into his natural, but he's still going to be taking a lot of losses. After that, he's probably going to lose a few drones. And yeah, it's so difficult for TLO to bounce back from this. Because again, it's such a small map. The roaches just get here so quickly.
Yeah, that one spine crawler does manage to finish. No transfuses available for it, though. And the Mutalisks are going to help with the cleanup, but
that's every queen.
He doesn't kill a tremendous amount of the drones. And I know this is going to sound weird, but like if TLO wants to just build Mutalisks once he cleans this up, the larva becomes less of a problem because mutas are just so expensive, right? But I guess it really depends because he's been building roaches. So maybe this was just always meant to be a muta roach counter.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is going to be the prudent move over here. Namshar might be up in supply, but a lot of it is drones. He needs to rely on the queens and the reinforcements that are coming on out. But the queens especially are here to try and push back the mutas that are still only at 5. There's 5 mutas, not the scariest thing in the world. Hydrogen also being thrown down. As long as I feel like Namshar is in position, he should be able to deflect this and maintain a bit of that worker lead.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting because he's obviously not committing, as we can see, to going like mass muta like last time. He wants to make that follow-up better. I think he recognizes that his opponent will probably be more ready for it. And at the end of the day, actually, there's quite a few overlords out here on the map that he could kill with these mutas. He's going to pull them back over for the roaches, but it's interesting, right? Because he's like, I don't think the same trick's going to work on Namshar twice. Get a bit of respect there.
Yeah, I'm definitely with you on that. Well, 5 mutas, like you said, we'll go find a bunch more overlords over here, which, funny enough, this one would have supply blocked Namshar, but he has 6 overlords that are finishing on up, so getting the good old lesson from our friend Laser, saying, make more overlords than you need.
Yeah, well, you know, mathematically speaking, your production as Zerg is not really limited by downtime, right? Like Terran or Protoss kind of are. So that's one of those reasons why it doesn't usually hurt the Zerg too much to build a bunch of overlords, as long as they aren't like literally attacked in that moment where they're adding a bunch that they don't need. But otherwise, the larva is still going to be there from the inject, so you'll almost always be able to use that supply without actually missing production if you're on top of it when the overlords finish.
Yeah, absolutely. As long as it's not like drones, if you just make an army, it's actually totally fine. Oh, Overseer comes on in, gets a good scat out and everything. Overlord speed finishes up, so the Overseer might even actually, with its good old armor, might make it out of there. Nah, the Queen does a little too much damage, so it does end up eventually falling over here, but a really, really nice scout over there from Namshar. We'll see what he does with the information as both these players just going into tunneling or burrow and tunneling claws. Yeah.
Yes, I do like to see that. It was pretty effective harass form for Namshar on the last map before he got, drowned in glaive worms. bringing some of these queens for it. It's not like there's a lot of Mutalisks. So is his plan to just use like the roaches and the biles here, or is he going to spread out and go for harass? The queens are moving so far off the creep. I'm like, is this it? Is he bringing everything here, or is that a misclick?
Yeah,
it's a short map.
I was gonna say it's both a short map and also there's this nice little window where there is a upgrade advantage with the Carapace upgrade for right now, but seems like the queens did. Oh no, the queens are actually still chasing back that over here. No, heading back. They're just gonna be tunneling claw roach harass, which actually is already sniping off a queen, so not bad.
Yeah, gets that queen, gets a small handful of drones. Namshar is kind of forcing the issue on this ramp. That army is not strong enough to make that push, but I guess his goal may just be to deny the 4th base since Namshar's already got a 4th. And he's like, yeah, well, you know, I don't need to have all my units here. If I have enough Ravagers, then I can always just throw down Biles, and it's not going to be that easy for you to catch me.
All right, so we saw the Infestation Pit finish on up there for Namshar, so kind of interesting. He does have the Lurker Den, but I don't think he's morphed in any Lurkers just yet. I really thought he would be going into those a little bit faster since he got up the Lurker Den pretty quickly, but yeah, just going to be chilling back. I feel like this is actually just such a great position for Namshar to have gotten up some Lurkers and take advantage of that, but seems like he's just going to be a bit more defensive here.
Yeah, they don't feel quite as good when you don't have the hive tech upgrades for them. So I can at least see from that perspective, like, you know, the Lurker as it is kind of like the Marine in that way where is it bad? Like, no, it's not really like bad to just have regular Lurkers, but really good roach counterattack here. But I guess more my point, the upgrades turn them into completely different monsters. As we have another massive fight, lots of Ravager Biles going down on both sides. The Queens using the Transfuse to protect themselves, but TLO hitting from the north, hitting from the east and the south, all at the same time. A pretty good concave around Namshar's forces. Now we have to keep in mind, of course, that defender's advantage is going to be nice, but the Hydras make this a more complex army. It's going to put out so much more DPS, unless you land Biles on the Hydras.
Yeah, the Corrosive Biles are big, but remember that counterattack doing so much damage. 15 workers have already gone down. I would argue this is actually putting TLO into a nearly all-in position. I think he actually has to win with this, but the reinforcements are starting to come out here for Namshar. He's leading up a lot of supply. He's getting the surrounding. He's getting the GG.
GG. Well played there. Namshar going up 2-1 over Liquid TLO. Fear Dragon just really good macro playing fantastically.
We're going to be heading to a short break before we jump into game number 4. Don't go anywhere, guys. We'll be back with game 4 soon. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We're getting ready to move into our next game. It has been a pretty hectic series, I would say, and it's been going to some of the later stages, but with game number 4, we'll see if things turn around as we go into Ice and Chrome. Nate, any predictions?
Putting it lightly. I don't know. This series has been so crazy. You might have just seen little Lewis is running around in circles by him. He got a new toy. The dog is very happy. He's running in circles now. But I have no more predictions I could possibly make about this match, Fear Dragon. It has been too weird. It has been way too weird.
I'm with you.
I'm having a nice day. I'm having a nice day over here. I hope everything's going well over there, Ravi. I hope all of you watching online are having a good time as well, staying safe at home and all that jazz, as this could end up being the final map. Our loading screen looks trapped in time though, Fear Dragon, just a little bit.
It's getting there. It's getting there. We're moving on to Ice and Chrome for game number 4. We're finally in the game. It's loaded on up. We're going to jump in. Introduce these two wonderful, wonderful stallions of players. Down here in the bottom left-hand corner of the map, we have the blue Zerg player from Team Liquid. He is TLO.
His opponent in the northeast, the red Zerg player leading the series 2-1. He is Namshar.
All right. Remember, this is an elimination game. Again, it's just today has been full of all those lower bracket matches where players are playing for their tournament lives right now. Loser of this does get knocked out and can say that, hey, at least I made it to the playoffs, but not exactly the way any of them are going to want to go out. So everyone is looking for gunning for those higher spots, looking for not only the EPT points, but Nate, this is a really large prize pool for this event. I mean, it's 38K for just North America. Like, that's massive.
Yeah. Oh, dude, I love seeing the prize pools come out for this. And I'm going to go on a little soapbox here, man. I think that the new format and everything that we've had, despite all the difficulties that we faced, I think the StarCraft community has really come together in a super impactful way that kind of reminds me, at least, that this is a scene that can take care of itself, honestly, if it needs to. But the support that we've had from ESL and DreamHack and the EPT setup, all of that has just been awesome. The amount of money that players can win week over week from the weekly cups, it's like hundreds of dollars, and we've got them for all the regions. Like, it's just so nice to see the level of support coming in, that even in these difficult times, like the community's holding it together for everybody, the players at large putting more money into the weekly cups because we don't have those offline tournaments. It's just it's just a really awesome time to be a StarCraft fan, because so many people just coming together to make it happen and keep putting on all of these awesome events for everybody to have something to watch, right? It's just awesome. So just a big shout out to everybody. Big shout out to DreamHack, ESL, Blizzard, and all the StarCraft fans that tune into this stuff so that we can get budgets approved to run more of it.
Yeah, I have definitely been enjoying that, and it's been great to see so much support for all this stuff. Oh man, well, hopefully we will get to see TLO bring this series back a little bit, and we might get to another game 5 just to finish off the day. But for now, we're just seeing pretty normal looking openings, and I want to see Namshar has actually been the player that has been on the defensive for a lot of the I feel like early Ling aggression that TLO sometimes is liking to throw out. So he's adding on that Baneling nest. We're not seeing anything from TLO just until now, but yeah, that's the usual ZVZ dance. It is just around like the next 30 seconds. I want to see big drone flood or big Ling flood. And there it is.
Look at that, Luca D production tab. Don't know how to cast. I just read this thing. It says only Zergling Spear Dragon. So that must mean he's about to go for the sickest all-in of all time, right? And there's no way he could transition out of building this many Zerglings, is there?
Well, I mean, I think there is one thing that's worth noting right now, Nate, which is that there's no Baneling nest for TLO. So he did halt at 100 gas. He's going to start up his lair, and he's going to get that transition, unless you were kind of memeing about. But, I mean, this definitely really wants to try and get something done. He's going to hit right before the Banelings finish warping. He's even going to be able to cancel one of the Banelings. 2 Banelings still managed to make it through. Other 2 Banelings looking for connections, not quite finding them just yet.
He's trying to transition behind this attack, right? But we've got a lot more Lings on the way for Namshar, and he's going to build some drones afterwards. But this kind of turns into that pendulum of ZVZ where, oh, you poke my third? Well, now I'm going to gut check you. You have to build more units. Oh, well, you're going to counterattack. Well, then I am going to do a double counterattack because you're probably being very greedy behind it. And it all just kind of spins round and round in circles as we go. And it's what makes ZVZ, in my mind, like such a hard matchup, is having to have the awareness to know. And this is a large counter coming from Namshar. He's got to be so careful. The drones at this third base can't really defend themselves.
Yeah, I mean, this is the downside of not getting the Baneling Nest, is that when there is that counter swing, there's no Banelings there to buy time to force your opponent back when you have a lower number of Zerglings. You're already seeing that third hatchery. You're just going to get rising down. He's ignoring the damage. The transfuses are coming on out, but it's not going to be enough to save him. And even after Namshar gets the hatch snipe, Nate, he still has about equal army supply.
Yeah, I mean, saying equal army supply though, right? It's always like a juggle question, right? Because you have to keep in mind like the queens and how they're going to end up impacting this, or if it's like a wall type situation. But what is really starting to make a difference here, at least we're seeing a big leap forward in tech from TLO, right? With that Spire. And I think losing that third base, it almost hurts even more when you're going for this type of build, because you'd love to have an extra gas. But since Namshar's lair is so late, I don't actually think it ends up being that bad. He's going to scout the Spire, but even if Namshar were to start his own Spire right now and have the 3 base gas, it's going to take him a little bit of time before he can try to get it. Did you see what he just did, by the way? He just turned that Zergling into a Baneling in between 2 minerals, let a Baneling blow up on it, and then canceled the morph and killed a drone.
So
there you go.
creative.
Who said TLO can't still innovate?
Absolutely love it. I have to say, Namshar is getting up to the, oh my god, he's really at almost 70 drones this early on in a game that he's kind of been under some pressure from in like a Ling Baneling aggression, but he's identified everything properly. TLO is not trying to kind of continue on with a lot of aggression over here. It is just going to be a few mutas that are made, not even honestly that many. Also, flyer attacks is coming out before anything else, and he's barely got 200 minerals left over to make some mutas. So this is a great identification of the situation here for Namshar. He's going to have a stellar economy.
Yeah, that drone count is crazy. You need TLO would need to land a massive assault to be able to equalize this type of situation. There was a couple of Banelings sent to the third, but Namshar actually pre-pulled many of his drones thanks to the Overlord that spotted them. And he's kept that drone count intact. 2 Banelings just blew up on nothing in the third. Namshar's 4th hatchery is still holding together. And while we're just now starting to see the Mutalisks go into the production tab for TLO, we've already got Infestors. And I actually like that Namshar's mixed it up a little bit, because those Mutas, they didn't just poke on the edge and try to hit bounce attacks off of the extractors. They went in. They went deep, Ravi. So if he goes in and he underestimates what's there to defend, 1 or 2 fungals, the queens and hydras, they absolutely rip his mutas to pieces.
Yeah, Ling's coming on forward over here for Namshar, trying to get a scout out and see, okay, well, the Spire, I know that it was there, and you are researching, so you're definitely committing to this. Haven't seen a whole lot of roaches either. I mean, that's the biggest tell that this is going to be a hard commitment. So Namshar is going to probably be sitting there smiling behind his computer saying, well, I have the answer this time. This is not going to go like that last game you were going for mutas.
Now, this is really important, though, because one of the first things Muta sees are the Infestors. So one of the fungals goes down. He focuses him. He focuses one of the Infestors, but now they're out of energy. Oh, you wish you had Burrow here, you know? That's the only thing I would like to see with this. And if you could have pocketed those Infestors a little bit better. I mean, if we look at units lost, 3 Mutas have died, 2 Infestors have died, which is the same amount of gas. A little bit more minerals on the Mutalisk side, but those Infestors are meant to be much more cost effective than trading evenly with Mutalisks.
Absolutely. I'm definitely with you. And remember, it's the fact that those Infestors also, like, they would have been building up energy with pathogen glands and everything, have already been there. So it's just the lost opportunity there with the pathogen glands as well. Ooh, Overlord drop's going to be coming forward. Nate, oh, could we be seeing big Baneling drops on top of, say, like the Infestors and any Hydras that are there?
I like this idea a lot. I don't know that he needs to put a ton of banelings in all of them. I like the idea of having like one of them in case he just like, you know, fat fingers the F2 key and presses on his main base, and then his lings go up there and blow up. But his army's not really many Zerglings anymore. But you know what? Oh my God. You know what, Rubby? Now I see it. He's going to bring the mutas with the drop. Of course. Of course he was going to bring the mutas with the drop. Why wouldn't he? It's genius.
Oh, he's going to clear off the creep tumors over here. Shut down some of the vision. Oh, there's a fungal on a few of the mutas. Remember, it just slows them down, keeps them clumped up for a little bit, but still opportunity to get away over here. TLO,
what if I told you?
Using the mutas to clear the path.
Yeah, what if I told you those banelings maybe aren't even thinking about hitting drones? He's got a couple sport crawlers very close to each other, and if he busts that open, suddenly the hive is possibly under attack. He's got the lings. They are moving into that main base. The banes are coming forward at the same time. I have to say, I would have liked to see him try to throw them either at the hydras or the spores, but instead they blow up on queens.
Oh, nice. I did not like that. Like, I love the idea. I did not like how that went down.
No, they didn't really get too much done at all there, unfortunately. The spores were still intact, so he hasn't softened the defense versus just mutas, and I'm not sure he grabbed any more of the infestors. No, he did not. He's only killed one hydra, and he hasn't killed any extra infestors. Now the lurkers, their lurkers aren't worried about the Zerglings running past.
And that's actually one big difference is I feel like Namshar got up to lurkers a lot faster this game than the other muta games. So he has a much easier time defending against any kind of ling run buys and all that stuff. And now he's chasing TLO all the way back across the map. He's been able to safely get over here with a massive hydra count and with the lurkers and the infestors. I don't know if he's going to be stopped over here. He's going to jump in on top of the banelings. The banelings getting fungled as well. Nate, that's the deal sealer.
Oh,
that
my
right
God.
there.
Well, mutalisks have way less range than hydras for Dragon. Even if they wanted to fight the hydras can kite, those fungal growths were perfect. GG, Nam.